Well, John, we've been traveling. I think we should talk about it. It's kind of a quiet time in the prep sports and activity scene. We'll, of course, talk about whatever is pertinent all summer, but it's a little bit of a dead time. And I just got back from Italy and Greece. So let's talk about that and your travels here on Preps Today with John Millea. He, of course, is John Millea from the MSHSL. You can find his written work at John's Journal at mshsl.org. And you can find his spoken word artistry here. Yes, I do like saying spoken word artistry. I'm Jim Souhan from the Star Tribune, and this is our prep sports and activities show at talknorth.com. If you like it, please subscribe. It's the easiest way to listen. It's good for everybody if you do that. It's absolutely free, of course. We're coming from the Aquarius Home Services Studios. We want to thank our longtime sponsor, Pizza Barn in Princeton, Jody Stay's operation up there in Princeton, and Bay to Bay Boat Club. Thanks to everyone who listens. We do appreciate it. So I just got back from my trip, and I'll just dive in and tell you what surprised me the most.
Your trip is more exotic than my trip. That's for sure. I want to hear about it.
It's actually pretty true. My wife has always wanted to get to Greece. I like Europe. She booked a trip, and we went. We said, okay, hey, we're getting older. Stop waiting to do things. Just go do them.
Yeah.
We flew to Venice. It is exactly what you think it is, and it's really cool. It's just fascinating to be on basically a city that's an island where people travel via canal. We did the gondola thing. We also took a water taxi. Beautiful boats. Boats. Yeah. We took a water taxi over open sea to get from our hotel to the airport. That was the route. Great stuff. So
a floating Uber.
Yeah, so much better than an Uber. And God bless Uber. It serves a purpose. But this is luxury stuff. This is stuff you wouldn't even dream of imagining. And you're on this beautiful little Italian boat. Everybody, the skipper, I guess, dresses to the nines. It's incredibly efficient, pulls you right up to the airport. It's a water-based society. It's fascinating.
Wow.
We get on a cruise. We go to 4 places in Greece. The one, the standout was Santorini, Greece. If you can ever make it to Santorini, Greece, it's kind of a southern island.
So is that the black sand?
Black sand.
Oh, yeah.
In what they call the caldera. So it's like basically you're up on the banks, the dry banks of a volcanic crater, and of course the crater's been filled in by the Mediterranean Ocean. So you're kind of, and everything is like the side of the cliff is basically all bars, restaurants, hotels, and everything exists so you can look out over the water and watch the sunset. It's just beautiful. It's stunning. I've never seen anything like it. Then we go back to Italy. We go like 4 or 5 different places in Italy. And here's what jumped out at me in Italy. The hospitality was so overwhelmingly good. And you expect good service, right? We stayed at a nice hotel. But I found it interesting. The one chain hotel we stayed in was very much a chain hotel experience. They were efficient, they were fine, everything was good, but nothing special.
Right.
Stacy really wanted to stay in like one-off, boutique, small, locally owned hotels as much as we did. So we did that.
Sure. Oh man.
Between that and the restaurants, I could not believe how generous the people were who either, whether it was the person behind the desk at the hotel, the owner of the hotel, the person who carried your bags up, the waiter at the restaurant. Wow. The service was the best I've ever experienced anywhere. And here's the best dining experience we had. We're in Naples, and we had been traveling all day. We didn't really want to go anyplace fancy. We didn't want to go anyplace far. I Googled, pizza place near the hotel, right? One place had pretty good ratings. We decided to go there, walk up to it. It looks like it's absolutely nothing on the outside. We walk in. We realize it's subterranean. We go down. We go, what are we getting ourselves into here? We get down there. Probably the best meal I've ever had in my life. Best pizza I've ever had in my life. Best service I've ever had in my life. They're like, the guy's bringing us over free glasses of wine. He's telling us what kind of olive oil we should be buying. And it was just incredible. I was just blown away by that aspect of the trip.
Awesome. Fantastic. How long were you gone?
2 weeks.
Okay. Well, my trip was also 2 weeks. You ready to hear about my?
I am.
Well, if anybody wants to read about 1,400 words on my on my trip. It's at John's Journal on MSHSL.org. I wrote a travel story because it was great. You know, my wife and I drove to California to spend a week with our grandkids, and we've never driven. Our son and daughter-in-law have lived there for 9 years in Napa. They got a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old. So we've been going for 9 years. We've always flown, but this is explained in the John's Journal article. We had a short church pew that's been in our house for, I don't even know how long. It's from my hometown in Iowa, but our son who lives in Arizona, he and his girlfriend are moving to California outside of Sacramento, like in the next month. They bought a house. They're doing some work on it. They haven't fully moved. So let's get that pew out of our house. It's now sitting in my older son's garage in Napa. When the younger son and his girlfriend have moved, they can come get it. But you know, this thing weighs, I'm guessing 250, maybe 300 pounds. So my wife has a small SUV, put the fold down the back seat, get some help, load up this giant, heavy church pew, and let's drive to California. And, you know, we wanted to get out there quickly, and we did. We hit it pretty good. 3 days of driving, 2 nights. We learned you can drive from the Twin Cities, go down to Des Moines, get on I-80, which goes to San Francisco. That's the route. But you can drive from the Twin Cities to Cheyenne, Wyoming in one day, which we did without a hotel reservation. But we found a place that night, like 13 hours. The next night, Elko, Nevada, about 12 hours. And the third day, about 8 hours to get to our son's house. So, and as I wrote in the story, I will never live down making the following statement before we left to come home a week later. We're going to take it easy on the drive home. We're going to see some sights. We're going to take our time. So to Grandpa here, taking it easy meant instead of 2 nights in hotels, we're going to spend 3 nights in hotels. It should have been 5 because, you know, we didn't take the direct route home. We drove from Napa to Salt Lake City, got there late. And then we kind of went north up into Wyoming, Yellowstone, Grand Teton, unbelievably cool. We saw Old Faithful, the geyser erupt. We visited Devil's Tower, you know, from close encounter. It was great. We saw elk, we saw antelope. We got stuck in a traffic jam because the buffalo had commandeered the highway. It was unbelievably cool.
Wow.
Yeah, but we did not take it easy, you know. You know, especially once you get off the interstate. So I-80 back east to Salt Lake, then it's like a little bit of Salt Lake City going up into Wyoming. It's 2-lane roads, and it's sorry, Wyoming. It's not beautiful country in southern Wyoming. It's flat. There's no crops. There's some cows, a couple horses, tiny towns. I mean, we would get close to half a tank of gas. We'd fill it up because you'd seen, no services next 60 miles. But, we saw the national parks. Just that was so great. And it was great. And then, that was 12 hours on the road, not going very fast. Then if you go north of Wyoming, right up into Montana, that's where I-90 is. So we ended up spending the last of the 3 nights in Billings, which was fine. I'm an old sports writer. I stay at Marriott's. I cashed in some points to pay for some of this. And so the fourth day, which we should have had about 6 days to do it right, not kill ourselves. We spent the night in Sioux Falls, short drive home. But yeah, it was just stupid, Jim. We should have stayed 1 more night, probably 2 more nights coming home. We got home and, I'm 65. My wife's a little younger. We weren't just tired. We weren't just exhausted. We were physically beat up just from riding in our car. We used to make that drive, a similar drive, when our kids were little, when we had kids in car seats and lived in Phoenix. We'd drive back to our home state of Iowa in the summer. And we were in our 30s. Now we're not in our 30s. And we had so much fun. We're glad we did it. We're not going to do it again. I can't imagine. If we do, we're going to do it differently. But here's a fun fact. So we're in the first night of our trip. We're in the hotel in Cheyenne, which is the state capital, Wyoming. And it wasn't dark when we got there. We could kind of look. There's the state capitol. There's downtown. How big is Cheyenne? It's the biggest city in Wyoming. It's the same size as Burnsville or Lakeville, about 60,000 people. And there are 14 cities in Minnesota larger than Cheyenne, Wyoming, which is, which got my wife and I into the discussion. Why does Wyoming, which has a minuscule population, have 2 United States senators, and states like Texas and California also have 2? Wyoming has one member of Congress. It's a vacant state. Beautiful, especially when you're up north where there's mountains and national parks. But yeah, that's my story. And like I said, if people want to read the gritty details, we didn't have any accidents. The construction wasn't bad. The weather was fine. I mean, it was basically 100 degrees in the, driving across Nebraska and Nevada, Utah. I mean, it was hot, but we had air conditioning. The car was fine. And so anybody wants to read gory details, go to John's Journal.
By the way, there's kind of a sinister story behind the whole 2 senators per every state. It's basically had to do with southern states didn't want, more populous northern states to have more power than they did.
Sure.
So of course they, lobbied hard for the Senate to be a place where power was evenly distributed amongst states, regardless of population.
Yeah. Sure.
And of course, it might have made some sense back then, but I don't think people, there's so many things our founding fathers could not have envisioned. One is that they couldn't have envisioned that a state, I don't know how many million people, let's say 100 million people, or not, that's too many. Yeah. Let's say 60 million people live in California.
Sure.
And 1 million people live in Wyoming. Well, now we're getting to the point where each of those states having 2 state senators is ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't need to go into the politics of it, but it really struck us once. We never really realized how some of these, especially Western states, the population is so small. Once you're driving, on 2-lane roads and you realize how far it is between little tiny towns that are basically a gas station and a post office, we wondered, how far do these people drive to get groceries? Do they, like every 3 months, do they go 100 miles to a grocery store and have a big freezer? I don't know. I thought I'd seen remoteness in states like Iowa and Missouri, but holy cow. And we were sure glad we weren't doing much driving at night. We weren't up on those roads in the winter, but it was interesting. We learned a lot. We had a lot of fun, especially being with our grandkids, but holy moly, the guy in charge of planning did not do a good job.
Well, we also, John, we're old enough that we come from a generation where our fathers were the bosses of the road trips. And the rule was no peeing.
Yes, that's
no
it.
Peeing, no stopping. We must drive 800 miles a day.
Yes.
I don't know why, but we must. That was just the way things were done.
And we had 2 or 3 days of more than 800 miles. We did stop to pee, but boy. And here's how old I am. Before we left, we went to Barnes and Noble. We bought a big United States Highway Atlas, with the
old school,
every state covered. And I tell you what, we used it. But, and whenever I'm driving on my job, I use the Waze app for navigation. I use that every mile. And it was really helpful because I knew how much farther to the next stop. But between an old fashioned road map and the Waze app, that was pretty slick.
No, that is good stuff. All right, enough of the travel log. We're actually going to talk a little bit about the subject of this podcast. We'll talk about the MSHSL. And by the way, when I said the best pizza I've ever had, I mean in Europe. I mean, if we want to talk United States, it's got to be Pizza Barn in Princeton.
That's it. And while we were traveling, Jim, we spent that second night westbound in Elko, Nevada. We're checked into the hotel. We're going to go find some dinner. And you know what? There is a Pizza Barn in Elko, Nevada. I didn't go in. I took a picture. It's like in a little strip mall. I took a picture of the front. I'll show it to Jody next time I see her. I don't think we have to have any lawsuits here, but I was shocked. I said, look at that. Pizza Barn. That's not right. There's only one real true Pizza Barn. And that's the one in downtown Princeton. Like you said, Jody Stay and her crew, they take great care of everybody. It's a great place to stop in. Their food trucks are very busy now that we're in the height of summer. This weekend coming up here, they'll be at the Little Explorers Childcare in Otsego for an open house on Saturday from 2 to 5. And Sunday, they'll be at the Little Africa Festival at Hamlin Park in St. Paul. That's a good long stretch, 11:30 in the morning till 9 p.m. That'll be a lot of fun. And we talk about the menu at the Pizza Barn. It has favorites for everybody, new items on a regular basis. And everything is available for dine-in and takeout, take and bake. They deliver, they cater. If you want to learn more, go to the Pizza Barn Facebook page. If you want to book a food truck, go to pizzabarnprinceton.com. There's menus there, food truck information, all that stuff. So I can state on the record, there's another Pizza Barn. It's a long ways away. I don't know why anybody would ever go to Elko, Nevada, unless you're passing through like us. But thanks again to Jody and everybody at the Pizza Barn.
Yes, thank you, Jody. Do appreciate it. And by the way, if she wants to sue, Steve Terry from TSR Injury Law will just take that Elko, Nevada Pizza Barn apart.
Yes, I will drive him out. I will drive him out there. We'll get there fast.
Yes. And we'll bring Naz Reid too.
That's right.
That's how we operate. Hey, we also want to thank Twill in the Dining Galleria, my friend Scott Dayton. Please check it out. Great men's clothing store. I'm wearing his stuff all the time. Also, thanks to Beta Bay Boat Club.
Beta Bay Boat Club offers a limited number of season-long memberships in our private club and half-day or full-day pontoon boat rentals on Lake Minnetonka. Members have the opportunity to play on luxurious pontoon boats as well as a variety of well-appointed deck boats, speedboats, and offshore boats. Our daily pontoon boats are deluxe, custom-built boats with many amenities and comfortable seating for up to 14 people. Beta Bay Boat Club, Country Club Boating, 24 years in business and voted Minnesota's best 3 years in a row. Please visit us at betabayboatclub.com for more information. We look forward to welcoming you this summer.
All right, John, what is going on with the MSHSL?
Yeah, it's, the high school sports scene is quiet right now. It will be rolling here in a couple weeks. The high school league board of directors just held a meeting this Tuesday this week. I was up there for parts of 3 days at Rutgers Bay Lake Lodge up in Deerwood, which is kind of in the Brainerd Crosby area. It's an annual retreat. There's a couple days of workshops followed by a board meeting. I don't think there's any big headlines to come out of the board meeting. Some decisions were made and things that are coming up down the road were discussed. It's a financial thing. The high school league is doing very well financially. During the pandemic and afterwards, it was pretty dire. And the structure of schools and the fees they pay was adjusted. And now, because the high school league is so healthy, the fees that schools will pay for the 24-25 school year, they're going way down. It's not going to be anything close to what they paid shortly after the pandemic. So that's good. That's how the place operates. If the league's doing well, schools are going to pay less for their dues. And that's the case right now. So a lot of school people and financial people will be happy to hear that. We have a change in one state tournament, the state track and field championships. When it was a 2-day meet, it was always Friday, Saturday. It's now a 3-day meet. It's been Thursday, Friday, Saturday in June. It's going to be a little different next spring. The board approved this today. It'll still be at St. Michael, Albertville, where it's been for use. Great site. It'll be June 10th, 11th, 12th. That's a Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And the reason is St. Michael has graduation that Friday. So that's why the schedule was changed. That won't affect anybody. They can still host the meet, which they're so good at. They can still have their graduation. And we've talked about the possibility of state softball championship games being played at the softball stadium at the University of Minnesota. Craswell Park at North Mankato, longtime home of the state tournament games. There's a move by softball coaches to they would like a higher profile championship day, like as baseball has at Target Field and occasionally at CHS Field. I don't think no changes are going to come soon. I'd be shocked if anything like that happened, within a couple of years. But there's more discussion about it. I think the board's going to keep talking about it. They want to see survey results from softball coaches and administrators. It's an interesting idea. It's if that did happen, it'd be nothing against Caswell Park. It would just be that, in some people's eyes, and I am I'm right on the fence on this. I love Caswell Park, but I can see both sides. So we'll see what happens. And in 3 other spring sports, three spring sports, baseball, softball, lacrosse, before long, their state tournaments are going to be seeded 1 through 8. That'll happen before next spring. Volleyball and boys and girls basketball, they've already been approved to do 1 through 8 instead of the long-standing seed the top 5 and then use a random draw after that. So I'm sure by next spring, baseball, softball, lacrosse, they will be approved for seeding 1 through 8 at their state tournament. That just doesn't make anything but sense to me.
Yeah, makes sense to me too.
Yeah.
What do we have to look forward to here now that we're about to turn the calendar?
Yeah. Can we talk about the Olympics a little bit?
Oh, of course.
Yeah. The fact that you and Rachel Blount from the Star Tribune are not there, that got some noise on Twitter the last few days once people realized you guys aren't there. And sure, it's a financial situation, but come on, you guys have done such good work for so long, and there's so many Minnesota stories. Are you upset?
I'm. What's the best way to put it? I want to be precise here.
Yes.
On a purely selfish, personal basis, I'm enjoying being home and watching the Olympics with my wife.
Right.
Professionally, I feel like I should be there.
Yeah.
Professionally, and as a longtime employee of the Star Tribune and somebody who knows what our readers care about and has a feel for what moves the needle.
Yeah.
I think whatever cuts you're going to make in Olympic coverage, it shouldn't be affecting Rachel. Now for a long time, we sent 3 people. One time we even sent 4 people. It was usually Rachel, columnist, and photographer.
Right.
Okay. Now I think that's the right way to do it.
Yes.
If you're going to cut, then cut everybody but Rachel, because Rachel is one of the best, if not the best Olympic writer in the country, one of the best Olympic writers in the country.
Absolutely.
She covers the hell out of it. She knows it better than anybody else. She has the complete respect of the USOC and the athletes she covers. And, so I think she, at the least, should be there. I'll also tell you, I'll just be really blunt. We were covering the Olympics in Tokyo. And, I did what I did, which was I wrote, multiple pieces a day. And the day that Suni Lee won, this is what happened. Rachel got up way early in the morning, went and covered Reagan Smith, one of the biggest stories of the Olympics. Then she helped me arrange to get a credential we didn't have to go, so both of us could be at Suni Lee's all-around competition. I don't know if I were there alone, I would have been able to pull that off. Rachel had the connections to get me in. So we have 2 people there, and it's not an easy credential to get. Yeah. We're there. We're 10 feet away from Suni Lee as she makes history, becomes the biggest story in the country, certainly the biggest story in Minnesota, one of the best sports stories in Minnesota history. And we're up till, I think that was probably prime time over there, probably 6, 7 o'clock, something like that. We stay up till like 4 or 5 in the morning writing everything we want to write. I'm a columnist, so I don't have to write as much. Rachel is cranking out piece after piece after piece. We end up writing. She ends up finishing one of her pieces as we're sitting on the ground at a bus stop waiting for a bus to take us back. And then I have to tell our editors, you got to let her get 2 hours of sleep or something here before the next round of things you demand that she do. That's what Rachel puts into the Olympics. I don't care how much it costs. She's a bargain.
Absolutely. And, I'm thinking, so we're talking here on Tuesday. Suni Lee won a gold medal in the team gymnastics today. Yep. Reagan Smith won a silver medal in the pool. I bet you they both were looking for Rachel afterwards in the mixed zone where they're being interviewed by the print media. They're missing Rachel.
Yeah, and more importantly is we've trained Star Tribune readers to expect excellent Olympic coverage, especially of their local athletes. And they're picking up the paper and seeing wire copy, and I think that's bonkers. Because listen, honestly, I'm probably going to get myself in trouble here because I'm obviously speaking against the way our paper's being run these days. But I'm sorry, I've been doing this a long time. You don't succeed by giving readers less.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a flight to Paris. It's not a flight to the moon.
Yeah.
And Rachel, like you said, Rachel, as good as she is, she's so plugged in. Everybody knows her. She knows everybody. She's going to do a great job. Anyway, I'm as a reader, as a former employee, but more so as a reader, I there's worse things in the world, but it's too bad that the readers aren't getting what we could be getting. But anyway, I'll move on here quick, looking ahead here. The 24-25 school year, we're a couple weeks away. The first day of practice for fall sports is August 12th. And the very first competitions of the school year on August 15th, girls tennis, they can play their first match if they want to schedule August 15th, away they go. Soccer, volleyball, cross country, girls swimming. August 22nd, that's the date they can begin competing. Football-wise, I'm aware of 2 0-week football games. I'm guessing on Thursday, August 22nd, I will be at Mountain Iron Buell when they host Cass Lake in what I think is an afternoon game. And then the next day, Friday, August 23rd, there's a 0-week game. It's scheduled as Breck at St. Anthony, but I'm hearing it may be played at TCO Stadium, home of the Vikings. And then following that, by the time we get to August 1st, we've got week 1 football, and away we go. I'm excited to once again get these most valuable teammate awards announced every week on the podcast. That should be a couple of weeks, maybe less than a month, I would guess. We'll start having those nominations roll in, and we'll start talking about that and everything else. And I'm ready to get the new year going. I'm not rested. Like I said, I'm tired. I'm beat up. Well, here's the other thing, Jim. So we get home from our driving trip, and last Saturday, my wife had been doing laundry. She got the last load out, and our washing machine stopped working, started screaming, making a terrible noise. Had a guy come look at it. He declared it dead. So we've got a new one ordered. It's going to be a couple weeks. And then today I'm up north this morning at Rutgers before the board meeting. My wife texts me that in the night, late last night, our central air stopped working. So it's not that bad in our house. We have a lower level. It's cool. That's where she slept last night. And I texted her back during this meeting. Do you want me to get a hotel tonight? But it's, it could be hotter. It could be more humid. We got fans, but when it rains, it pours. So if terrible things come in threes, I got 2 of them checked off. I'll keep you updated on whatever else happens.
Oh man, I feel for you. This is not the right time to be going through all that.
No. 3 weeks ago, we had a technician check our AC unit because it's old, and it was declared perfectly fine. You should have no problems. So, that was the curse right there.
Oh man. Well, I wish you best of luck in all of those endeavors.
Again, there are much worse things, but it's just a pain in the butt. That's okay.
Well, you could just drive cross country with the AC on. That would solve the heat and steam problem.
That's right. Yeah, we've done that. I don't think we're doing that again. Just to stay cool. I don't think we're doing that.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, fun talking about all this stuff, John. Thank you. Thanks for your work as always. And thanks to everyone who listens. We do appreciate it. We'll start getting more back into the flow of preps, activities, and sports here pretty soon. Thanks for listening to TalkingWork.com. We do appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.